Hello and welcome back to SiGMA TV. Today I am excited to be joined by our return guest, Alidad Tash, Managing Director at 28 Limited, a Hong Kong-based consultancy specializing in international casinos and integrated resorts. Alidad has been a regular and certainly a favorite guest here on the show. He is an expert in gaming with 2 decades of experience, and he covers news updates and event forecasts surrounding the buzzing space here in Asia. We'll make sure to link those videos featuring Alidad in the description below. And to find out more updates, just keep on watching. So Alidad, great to have you back. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Hope you've been doing well.
I am very well, thank you. And it's great to catch up with you again. It has been a while. A lot has happened. A lot of significant changes have been posed in the landscape of gaming since we last spoke. And that was when we had our last interview with Vitaly discussing Asia Gaming in 2030 back in May. And we also have our one-on-one interview series in which in late January, we filmed our 6th video. So this is our 7th, how time flies. So how has it been for you in Macau and Greater China? Can you give us some updates?
Well, the last time we spoke, as you alluded to, was early May, and a lot has changed. We were very optimistic, as was the rest of the world. Everybody thought that 2021, the first half, was going to getting people lined up to get their shots. By summer, people in the Western world, people in Macau, people in China would have had plenty of shots, enough to reach 60–70% of the population. And then it was going to be smooth sailing after that. But unfortunately, that was not what happened. We had a setback in June. We had the Delta variant came and ruined everything for everyone the world over. You saw the U.S. had, they were celebrating early July 4th, Independence Day, and that wasn't the case. They've been having serious issues. Same thing happened in China, where, again, it's all relative. China was in the double digits and maybe a couple of days of triple digits, but again, compared to what it used to be, that was pretty bad. And that was a serious setback. And then Macau also had hard to explain to people that is legitimate numbers. But the last time Macau had a case was April of 2020. 16 months later, in August of 2021, Macau finally had a COVID case inside the region. A family of 4 was sick with COVID-19, the Delta variant. Macau underwent an amazing 700,000 people in Macau did an NAT, the nasal test, in 72 hours, and not a single person had contacted the disease. That was the good news. The bad news is the disease is now around the corner. It's inevitable, and unfortunately, the vaccination rates are not as high as they should be. They're around 50%. Hong Kong is around 55%. China's in the upper 70s. So Macau's got a little bit a while before it feels it get rid of this cocoon of safety and recognizes that dangers lurk from without, and it could happen quite soon. That something unfortunately will happen here.
And how about for travel? Is the travel back up there?
No, Macau has had the same stance since late September of last year, whereby only the people from mainland China are allowed to visit Macau without an extended quarantine. If you're from most of the world, you have to go to a 21-day quarantine. Some places in the world are 4 weeks, even 5 weeks. Again, India, some places are trouble spots. If you're from Hong Kong and Taiwan, you have 14 days of quarantine. And that's pretty significant. It's not just 14 days coming, you're also 14 days going back, or 21 days coming in some places. So that's been a major challenge, which is why the revenues, after having a pretty good start last September, October, where things were just kind of taking 2 steps forward, 3 steps forward, as 1 step forward, suddenly had a withdrawal or a negative step in June, and then a very bad step in August, where revenues were down compared to, again, I don't care about last year, I care about 2019, the last pre-COVID year. Revenues were down as low as 82% of the gaming revenue compared to the same time, July of 2019. That's a serious setback.
How have the brick and mortar properties have been performing since the start of this year?
Well, Macau only offers brick and mortars, so there is no online gaming. So that has been happening. Again, they had a pretty good, optimistic view as to what's going to happen, but pessimism is running rampant at the moment. Things are not looking good. Just want to clarify, August was an exceptionally bad month. In July and most likely September, things are going to be 65% lower than they were 2 years ago. Relatively better, but quite a long ways, especially when compared to Las Vegas. For example, Las Vegas, strangely, despite the fact that the US and Nevada and the state of Las Vegas and then the city of Las Vegas is having far more COVID cases, they actually have recovered fully. And they're posting numbers that are higher than they were pre-COVID days, which is kind of hard to believe because travel is open. People can travel from almost most places around the world. And again, it's mostly a domestic market anyways. So that's been going well. But as long as Macau is shut down the rest of the world, with the exception of China, we're suffering 20, 25% of the revenue is just shut down simply because people from Hong Kong are not going to go withstand a 14-day quarantine, gamble a few days, go back and have another 14 days, maybe 7 days, depending on whether they're Hong Kong residents. That's 21 days is too steep a price to pay for a few days of gaming. And as a result, the numbers have reflected that. The gaming revenues are just not there.
Do you think it's because of travel, the reason why Las Vegas have already recovered and not Macau? What is the secret to success?
Yeah, it's not that the appetite's not there. People have recovered. People who are hardcore gamers, they have recovered from gaming. I don't think there's that much of an economic challenge. It's just a matter of getting here, the logistics of getting here, and not wanting to be trapped. Mind you, the quarantine that happens in Macau are not the at-home quarantine that isn't deployed in some places around the world. This is not very pleasant. I mean, you go into a hotel, you're not controlling what comes in and what goes out. You're stuck basically there anywhere from 2 weeks up to 5 weeks, depending on where you are. It's not designed to be pleasant, and it's not pleasant. Although in some cases you can get to be a nicer hotel, but that's kind of like becoming a nicer prison cell. You're still in prison, and it's still an unpleasant experience.
All right. Tell us about Macau gaming licenses that are going to expire. I recall that it was a pretty hot issue the last time we spoke. Are the licenses going to be reissued? Are they not? What is your forecast there?
Yeah, see, it's actually been a hot issue for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, these were 20-year licenses given out. There's 6 gaming companies in Macau. Their licenses are now set to all expire at the same time in late June of 2022, which is 10 months away, less than 10 months away. That is surprising how fast we've gotten. And again, the question as to what the chief executive of Macau will decide will happen. There's a lot less time for him to maneuver. A couple of years back, you may have said, oh, he's going to do a little bit of a study and then he's going to go ahead and make a decision about a year out. But now that we're 10 months out, it's very difficult to go to the operators, 4 or 5 months from now and say, hey, I'm going to extend it, or here's the new regime, or hey, you lose your licenses. So what's been going on is that the only thing that the law stipulates is that the licenses expire. There's a rebid process where all the operators, the 6 gaming companies, 3 of which are American, are going to officially bid to get licenses. But it could be additional licenses for all we know. There's no set law that it says that the gaming licenses have to be 20 years. For all we know, they could go ahead and give a 5, 10, 15-year licenses. The gaming tax, which today stands at 39%, could be increased for all we know. There could be additional stipulations, additional constraints. Perhaps a percentage of people that are deployed, in the percentage of management that have to be locals. We don't know that, and that is only up to the chief executive, which will do so with the consultation with the government in Beijing, as to what the right way would be. But the chief executive has only one magic button, an emergency button that's called, which was designed amazingly 19 years ago, which forecasted such a scenario whereby the chief executive may exercise up to a 5-year period to extend the licenses until he reaches a conclusion. So for all we know, the chief executive may say a few months from now, you know what, I'm not going to make a decision before the expiration. I'm going to artificially increase the expiration or continue the licenses and the expiration date, push it back maybe 2 years until I reach a decision. And in the meantime, in the interim, life goes on as currently is. That is what most analysts believe, including myself, believe is going to happen. The chief executive, however, insists that he will be making a decision before the expiration date, to which we're saying, okay, great, that would be fantastic. We just want to kind of end the suspense because if you're an operator and you want to go and spend $2, $3, $4 billion on another phase, the next phase, and you don't know whether or not you're going to be here 3, 4, 5 years from now, you wouldn't go ahead and make that kind of an infrastructure investment. So a lot of the investment is kind of on hold until the decision is reached. And that's not a good thing for Macau or the operators or Macau. You want to be able to compete with casinos coming up in Asia, with casinos in Japan in a few years. You want to basically refurbish and have newer, more modern, more attractive properties.
All right. And how about for China and Hong Kong? How is the gaming situation in that area?
Well, again, China, Macau benefits from being the only place that people from China can go without visas, and it's the only go-to destination for them. Hong Kong is not so. Strangely, even though Hong Kong is so close to Macau, we're talking about 45 kilometers. Hong Kong, the ferries have not been operating since February of 2020. That's a year and a half ago. Yes, while it is feasible for people to come from Macau to Hong Kong and vice versa, the fact that you have to go through the quarantine effectively shuts it off. I'd love to go to Hong Kong, for where I am in Macau at the moment, and I can't because I'm not going to go and jeopardize 14 days of being stuck in Hong Kong and 14 days of coming back. That's 28 days for what? Nothing is worth it. Mm-hmm. So hopefully there's going to be, Hong Kong has done quite a good job of getting the virus under control relative to a few months ago. Mm-hmm. Same with Macau, same with China, but you cannot forget about the Delta variant and the fact that the vaccines are losing their effectiveness after a few months. Will there be a need for a booster in Macau, in China, in Hong Kong? Those are pretty challenging decisions and discussions that are being pondered until we see what the next phase brings.
Mm-hmm. A lot of factors. And what do you think are the biggest challenges that are currently being faced by Macau operators?
It's all visitations. Two things. Macau would like to go ahead and develop herd immunity, which will not happen unless we're talking about 70, 75, 80% of the population, which when you take it out, the kids under 12, we're talking about 90, 95% of the adult population has to be vaccinated. We're looking at 50% at the moment. That's pretty low, given the fact that Macau, unlike a lot of other countries, Macau, the region, has had access to vaccines since February. So it's kind of unforgivable that they've had this. I mean, other countries have been begging for vaccines. Macau has had the luxury of having two different kinds of vaccines, the Chinese and the Pfizer-BioNTech, and yet it's still sitting at 50%. That, as I mentioned earlier, that sense of security, that false sense of security, has to be put aside. And the government has committed late last week, and early this week, the government has committed to making proactive steps to make vaccination, perhaps a carrot and stick approach that's being deployed in different places around the world, to go ahead and force the people to be vaccinated, the people who can be vaccinated to become vaccinated. Mm-hmm. That's basically it. There's nothing the operators can do. They have empty hotel rooms. They're filling them with a lot of gamers and non-gamers. But if there's no demand, enough supply is not going to do much.
So besides China allowing to getting more bodies into Macau, is there anything that operators can do to get out of this?
No, there is nothing they can do. Last year, there was a series of aggressive layoffs of almost exclusively foreigners, expats. And a lot of those people who have been gone or that they were deemed to no longer be necessary, they're gone. So there's not much more fat, more room to cut. So there's literally nothing that the operators can do. They just have to wait until the borders open up. First, more Chinese, next, more Hong Kong, and then more rest of Asia, and then the rest of the world is a minor piece anyways, but Hong Kong and the rest of Asia are the key determinants for the next phase.
All right, I want to wrap this conversation up for Macau, China, and Hong Kong. Truly, 15 minutes is not enough to cover the other Asian regions, so let us put a pin on this. Once again, thank you, Alidad. It is such an honor having you here. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Oh, you're welcome. You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Fantastic, and that is all for myself and Alidad in a part 1 of this 2-part series. Part 2 will be up in 2 weeks, so stay tuned. In the meantime, we'd love to hear your feedback or suggestions of what else you might want for us to cover, so please let us know in the comment section below, and we'll see you for the next video.